and wide they gather, from different churches and walks of life, to celebrate a landmark, the reformatting of Te Paipera Tapu, the most significant work completed on the Māori Bible in 60 years. For those who've worked long and hard to give the Bible its new modern look, it's a day to celebrate and a day to reflect.
On many levels, there's a lot of, I guess, deep significance to this day. The edition that we've worked on was originally translated by a group from about 1946 to 1952. And some of our illustrious leaders were part of that group, people like Apira Ngata. And so we've had some trepidation in some ways dealing with their work.
The text hasn't changed, so this is the text which is greatly loved, the 1952 text, and it's, if you like, giving it a spruce up so that it's much more readable, much more understandable, much more accessible. It's the sort of thing you would expect if you've been learning Māori, whether in an immersion school or whether as a second language learner, and you want to pick up a Māori book. This is what you would expect to see.
Apart from a series of volunteers checking and double checking, the job of reformatting has fallen on the shoulders of Brenda Crooks, who's spent 11 years painstakingly modernising the text line by line, verse by verse for today's reader.
Mainly, I think what's probably most noticeable is the addition of macrons, and that to indicate the length of vowels. You know, when this was first printed, people didn't need macrons because they were native speakers, and now there's a lot of people who come to the language as their second language, and so marking the vowel length is really helpful.
Oh, they just look fantastic. I think seeing those Bibles there, and I just now opened one of the new ones and opened the old one, and just had a look at the difference between just the look and feel of the page, and it's just amazing.
It makes it easier for them to read it properly and to understand it. And in particular where they are paragraphed and set out much more easier in terms of knowing who's speaking to whom and when. I suppose I grew up with the Bible and with the old Māori, so there was no difficulty for me. But I must admit that I do find this much easier.
The reformatted Paipera Tapu, I think that it's wonderful. It's more inviting than the other version. With the big print and the macrons, it beckons to you to come and read it, and it's just a lot easier to read. Ka huaina no hoki koe, he mea I rapua, he pā kahore I mahue.
My passion is for Te Rau Māori, also for Jesus, and our tangata whenua. They deserve to have a flash-looking Bible like everybody else.
The feedback we're getting from people who are using it, they're saying it's much easier not only to read, but to read aloud, which is really one of the key essential things for us, because we want this Bible to be used in that setting, and so making it easy is it's an absolute joy to see that it's working. Yeah.
For me, I see the use in my mahi as leader for this ministry in the Salvation Army. It's just going to be huge, because a lot of our Māori in the Salvation Army are non-speakers, well, they're second language learners. They're actually getting back into their Māoritanga, they're joining courses and what have you. This Bible is going to be just such a taonga for them, very special. Oh yeah, he taonga tērā, ana.
It's not just about modernising the text version, they've also brought out an e-book, and it's hoped this will help re-engage Māori with the Bible.
We've got to go through all the modern technology that we've got, but that's not my job. I'll leave that to the younger generation like Don and them. They'll be able to do that quite easily.
You're putting it on your iPad?
I've got to learn how to drive that yet.
You know, the purpose of translating, scripture in the first place into mother tongues is to make it accessible, and to open up the treasure of scripture to all those who want to seek it. We also have, the interesting developments of what we might call Māori Renaissance. So we have new younger generations who are growing up very fluent in Te Reo Māori and accessing all sorts of resource and material. And we just want to make this taonga, it's an ancient taonga that's been handed down by our ancestors, accessible to these new generations, and so that they'll see the value for themselves.